Well, good morning, MakerDAO community, or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are in the world. I'm Retro from the Sustainable Ecosystem Scaling Core Unit, and today I'm joined by the co-founder and business development team from Origin Protocol. This is Know Your MIP number, uh, discussing the proposal to leverage PSN funds to create a revenue opportunity for the DAO. Josh, the co-founder, and Peter and Andra from the business development team will lead this session. As you have questions, please go ahead and feel free to drop them in the chat. Or if you're feeling adventurous and want to hop on the mic, use the raise hand feature in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. But with that, I'll turn the floor over to the Origin team, and guys, take it away.
Thanks, Retro, and thanks everyone who's here and watching the video later. As he said, we're part of the Origin team, and we're going to be discussing MIP87. And really, we think of this as Maker's decentralized option for generating revenue. So quick intros here on who we all are. I'm Josh Fraser. I'm one of the co-founders of Origin Protocol. And joining me is Andra, who's our head of BD. She was previously at OneInch and has deep experience in this space as well. And then Peter, who's BD manager and was one who actually wrote up the proposal, and we'll be going into more of the details on exactly what that entails. So Origin and Maker actually have a long history of working together. We both got started very early in the space. Origin was started in 2017. I remember hanging out with Ruin and the other Maker team members in San Francisco in 2017, 2018 timeframe. And at that time, we were building a decentralized marketplace where you could buy and trade anything. And DAI was actually the very first stablecoin that we added to that product. We've also collaborated with MakerDAO across multiple different initiatives over the years, particularly in Asia. I remember being in Korea, hanging out with Dunam a lot, and we recorded some videos together. We did some events together in China. And then, of course, Origin is a big user of Maker and DAI. We have over 8 figures of DAI that we've minted and hold in our treasury. But fast forward today, we're focused on these 2 products, Origin Dollar, which we're going to be talking about today, this yield-bearing stablecoin that can be a revenue generator for Maker. We also have this NFT platform called Origin Story. And this may be how many people have heard about Origin. We did Blau's $11.7 million NFT sale last year. It really brought NFTs into mainstream consciousness. Before that, it was NFTs were saying that only people in communities like this actually knew about. But with that record-breaking sale, mainstream adoption and awareness of NFTs really started. We've since worked with lots of other DJs and celebrities, worked with big brands like SpaceX, and even people like Paris Hilton have used the Origin platform to mint their NFTs. Our team comes from deep Web 2 as well as Web 3 experience. My co-founder, Matt, was one of the first product managers at YouTube before they were acquired by Google. And we have, like Andra here was at OneInch. Our VP of product was at Coinbase before. So deep experience in the space, both at Web 2 and we want to take the best practices from Web 2 and bring some of them over to Web 3. We're backed by a lot of well-known names in crypto space, like Pantera was our first investor and led a round. We're also backed by Steve Chen. He's the founder of YouTube. Gary Tan, who's one of our early partners at Y Combinator, and Alexis Ohanian, who's the founder of Reddit. And with that, let me toss it to Peter to talk a little bit about our motivations for writing this MIP.
Thanks, Josh. So there were 2 main motivating factors that went into us writing MIP87, speaking with the different Maker teams and core units, rewriting MIP87, and ultimately coming on here to speak. And so the Origin team is aware that due to a small number of liquidations, maybe some weak credit demand, underperformance from ETH, and Bitcoin, Maker's revenue has been down a bit over the past quarter, about I think 86% last time we checked. So off the bat, we understand that Maker really wants to increase revenue. And some of the earlier 2022 Maker forum posts can confirm this, such as MIP13, the declaration of intent to invest in short-term bonds, which is a $1 billion investment to yield 1% after fees. Then there's the aggressive growth strategy from core units, protocol engineering, and growth, which highlight the need for a system surplus of 300 million in DAI for protocol runway. And lastly, there's the endgame plan, where everyone describes how Maker needs to accumulate as much ETH as possible over the next 3 years, which they'll obviously need revenue for. So motivating factor number 1, we want to help Maker generate revenue. And then there's motivating factor number 2, and that's that the recent proposals that have been submitted to Maker governance so far have all involved handing the investment over to centralized parties. And when it comes to Maker's core decentralization principles, we believe that Maker should be moving away from centralized counterparties and more towards the original Maker goal of complete decentralization. At this point, the Origin team trusts code more than counterparties, and this year has given us multiple examples of what can go wrong when placing too much trust in centralized platforms. No matter how safe they may initially seem from the outside, the funds are never truly secure when the keys are handed to a third party. And this is a good slide in case you need a reminder of a few notable logos that have had some issues over the years. You know, exchanges fail, things go wrong, but this all happens when you put too much trust into third parties. So our solution to these two motivating factors is OUSD. And to discuss OUSD, I'd like to hand off to Andra, our head of BD.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. So what is OUSD? OUSD is a non-algorithmic 100% backed stablecoin. And in our collateral at the moment, we accept DAI, USDC, and USDT. However, this can change at any point in time, and it can always be verified at analytics.ousd.com. And at the moment, we are backed by about 55% DAI and about 45% USDC, as we have eliminated our USDT collateral for internal reasons. As I mentioned, OUSD is fully transparent, and we have in-depth analytics where you can always verify where we route the stable coins that we accept for minting OUSD, the state of our collateral, and all kinds of in-depth stats. If we go to the next slide, please. How does it actually work? So as Peter already mentioned, you don't hand it over to anyone. You simply hold it in your wallet of choice, and you receive yield through something called rebasing, which most of you might be familiar with. But in case you're not, what it really means is that as you hold OUSD, you just receive more of it in your wallet. Now, where does this come from? So the stable coins that we accept, that I mentioned before, USDC, USDT, or DAI, we route them through blue chip protocols. Like you have the names on the screen: Compound, Aave, Uniswap, Curve. And we collect fees from lending protocols. We have automated market trading fees and liquidity mining rewards. So all of these combined through our automated asset manager, if you will, are able to generate higher yields than you'd be able to get on your own if you were to do individual yield farming. Move to the next slide, please. So what do these yields look like? Obviously, yields in DeFi have been low in the past couple of months, as we're all aware. Our 365-day trailing is about 9.26%, 30 days to around 2%, and 7-day trailing is 2.19. So as you can see, these are still higher than, again, if you were to do individual farming. Next slide, please. So what is it? Just to quickly recap. It's a yield-generating stablecoin that rebases positively to distribute yield to users. And like I mentioned, it's just additional units that get deposited in your wallet. It's fully collateralized, so it's not an algorithmic stablecoin. It's not under-collateralized. It's backed at least one-to-one by DAI, USDC, or USDT. Yield is generated from blue chip protocols only. We are incredibly risk-averse, and we want to make sure that we only use the safest protocols out there. Fees are distributed proportionally to each OUSD holder, and you're able to hold custody at all times. So like I said, you're not handing it over to anyone to manage it for you. And the allocation happens each week. So using OGV, you can participate in governance, and you're able to vote as far as where you would like these stablecoins to get routed in order to capture yield. Next slide. Just to continue, 100% backed. It chases the highest yield while using the safest protocols out there. OGV driven, so governance driven, completely transparent, analytics.ousd.com. And the team, which we already mentioned, is fully doxed and incredibly experienced in Web 2.0, and we're translating that experience into Web 3. And one more, please. Security. That's something that we take incredibly serious. So we are only one of 6 projects to receive the highest security rating of AAA from Insurance. We are audited by top firms in the space, Open Zeppelin, Trail of Bits, Certora, Solidified, and we have time locks on all contract changes. As you can see, we have rigorous internal code reviews. We have security reviews that are prioritized, and so on. So this is something that we take seriously here at OUSD. Peter? You're on mute.
We can't hear you, Peter.
Sorry. So a quick recap on the previous MIPs that we've seen come through the Maker Forum over the past about 2 months. And without diving too deep on the details of these 3, I'll just run through them quickly. I guess all 3 are offering low interest payments, no more than 1.5% for Coinbase and Gemini, and maybe 3% on a good day for CoinShares, depending on what the variable rate is on that day. All 3 proposals are paying the interest at the end of the month, so revenues are not immediately captured. Coinbase and CoinShares both provide a significant amount of counterparty risk, and Gemini's proposal is also conditional based on holding a minimum number of GUSD in the PSM at the end of the cycle, and if that threshold is not hit, then Maker would earn no interest. One thing is certain for all 3, they're all C5 proposals, all 3 of them. None of them are in line with Maker's decentralization principles, and as members of the Maker community, this is something that's pretty important to us. Next slide, please. So what is MIP87? So again, the goal of MIP87 is to generate revenue for Maker, and it's to generate revenue at a higher rate than Coinbase and CoinShares and Gemini, but do it without having to sacrifice our ideals. Keeping decentralization a key focus. Like Andra mentioned, OUSD is generating yield at a trailing APY of over 9.2% at this point. An investment in OUSD would begin generating revenue for Maker on the same day. So Maker would not have to wait till the end of the month to start capturing that revenue, and Maker would retain full custody the entire time. We're in talks with multiple core units at Maker and are still figuring out the best ways for Maker to actually make the investment. But as of now, we believe the best option would be for the collateral engineering services core unit and protocol engineering core unit to build out a D3M for Maker's investment so that the entire transaction can happen on chain without needing to involve any third parties, and so we can ensure that Maker can participate in the rebasing function of OUSD each day. We're proposing that Maker start with a $100 million investment using the idle USDC that Maker is holding. And we're also prepared to offer Maker a bonus of Origin Dollar Governance, or OGV tokens, along with this OUSD investment. OGV was launched by the same team that launched OGN, which now is listed on all the largest exchanges and has generated tens of millions of dollars in trading volume each day. But the motivation behind this bonus of OGV is that Origin realizes that Maker could be a key strategic decentralized partner. So we'd like to offer an aligned incentive structure that encourages mutual success for both Origin and Maker. So along with the OUSD investment, we'd like to offer the OGV bonus, and we'd like to offer it at a rate of up to 3% of the total OGV supply over 4 years, vested monthly with a 1-year cliff. And Origin will happily increase this bonus proportionally with the size of Maker's investment if Maker decides to increase the size of the OUSD investment. By staking OGV through our staking program, OGV holders have the opportunity to participate in OUSD governance. And by providing Maker OGV, Maker will have the opportunity to participate as well and will have a say in OUSD's future. Because OUSD is a decentralized protocol, the offer is obviously contingent on decentralized governance. But ultimately, we're giving Maker the tools to participate in how the investment is allocated with OUSD. So to wrap it up, we invite everyone to join us and experience really the future of money with OUSD. We've enjoyed the conversation and debate we've had with MIP87 so far, and would like to now open it up for any questions regarding MIP87 and what we've presented today.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction and run through of the proposal there. We do have a couple questions queued up, and as always, audience is encouraged to ask any others. To make sure we have it for the recording and the folks watching later on YouTube, I saw that you answered, Josh, but is there a risk for permanent loss with this proposal?
So OUSD only deploys funds into stablecoin pairs. And so the risk of impermanent loss is very low. Of course, the biggest risk there is due to peg loss. And so that's something that we, like many people in the Maker community, are keeping a close eye on, particularly with Tether, as it's had some issues in the past. But from a practical standpoint, there's no impermanent loss when you're doing like a USDC DAI pair on Curve or on Uniswap or something like that. So risk of impermanent loss is quite low. It's really the risk of depegging is really what we're talking about. As Andra mentioned, we've been minimizing our exposure to USDT, where vast majority of our backing supply is in DAI today. And USDC is second, and then there's I think less than 1% in USDT at this point. And so that's something that the community is obviously weighing in on what those appropriate allocations and risks are. So that hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely. I think explains it very well. We do have another question queued up from recognized delegate Flap. Progresso asks, what are some of the strategic hurdles that Origin faces, and what are the pivotal challenges facing the protocol? And also, what are the decisive actions that are being taken to overcome those?
Yeah, I think the biggest hurdle we have is that OUSD is not yet ubiquitous. If you could use Origin dollar in all the same places you can use USDC today, for example, you'd be crazy to be holding USDC in a wallet when you could be holding something that's earning yield. Why hold something that's earning 0% yield if you can be using the exact same thing that earns a yield for you? And the reason is pretty obvious, and that is that USDC is integrated and DAI is integrated into all the major exchanges, all the major wallets. Everyone knows it. And so that's the uphill battle that we have ahead of us. How do we make sure that everyone knows it, trusts it, and can access it, right? And so this is still, Origin is in its early days, it's in its infancy. And so we haven't reached that point yet where anyone who wants to can just quickly grab it on whatever exchange they happen to be using. But thankfully, it's still a very valuable, useful tool for the early adopters. And there's thousands of people who are holding OUSD and are huge fans of it today. And it works as a great investment tool, even if it's not yet at the point where you can use it as a stable coin for any transaction. And you're not guaranteed that your counterparty will know about OUSD or easily be able to accept OUSD. But we see that as one of the things that will change as we grow our TVL. As we grow our TVL, we're able to get more integrations. As we get listed on more exchanges and get more integrations done, makes it easier for people to come into OUSD, which in turn increases the TVL, and we keep that, and it keeps that flywheel going. Some of the pivotal challenges facing the protocol, the same thing facing everyone, which is we're still very much at the mercy of macro trends. The Fed increasing rates is certainly moving attention away from DeFi and onto centralized alternatives, and so that's certainly a challenge. Obviously, we're still bullish on DeFi. We think that it's short-sighted to go chasing short-term treasury yields and forget all the lessons of the last few months. But that's certainly a challenge we have right now. And then some of the ongoing challenges of just deciding, what is the right risk profile for the protocol. There's some people who in our community who are pushing for higher yields. Our core team and a lot of people in our community are like, no, we want to stay safe and more conservative. But that's an ongoing battle on exactly where the optimal point is for OUSD and how much risk the protocol should take on. But as one of the core ideas of OUSD is that you don't lose your principal, and we're not going to gamble with your money, and so we want to keep that safe as a pretty core principle.
Yeah, and to build on that a little bit too, the MIP87 subcomponent 7, I believe, also talks about the elephant in the room, which was about 2 years ago. There was a exploit or a hack, but for the benefit of everybody on the call, you did provide a post-mortem and did cite that the protocol is AAA rated with a on-chain insurance company. Could you speak to that and provide some more color about the lessons learned and the growth from that experience?
Yeah, I can. So for additional context on what happened here, now we deployed the smart contracts. We had an audit from TrailerBits queued up, but it takes months to get on their calendar. And so we said, let's deploy the contracts and see if they actually work and if this is useful for anyone. But we put a huge disclaimer across the top of it, said, these contracts haven't been audited. You might lose all your money, use at your own risk. And as apes will do, people aped in with about $7 million worth of capital, even though we'd warned them that they might lose it all. And we got hacked due to a re-entrancy bug that we refactored some code, and we didn't catch one line of code that got refactored out that shouldn't have been refactored out. And so we lost the $7 million. And we decided the right thing to do was to make everyone whole. And so we did 100% compensation from our treasury. And so we just made everyone whole. Some of that we did with our governance token, which later appreciated and valued significantly. So people actually ended up coming out way ahead due to this hack, and everyone who lost money is very happy that they did because they ended up making considerably more money as a result. For us as a team, it was obviously a terrible thing to go through, but it was really important. It really helped us grow up as a team. It helped us start taking security a lot more seriously. And while, it was a terrible experience, would never want to go through that again, we're in a much stronger position as a team because of it. We really got our shit together as a result, and we have, very thorough security checks. We have engineers check every single line of code that gets deployed. We have Open Zeppelin on a continuous retainer. So everything we write gets audited by Open Zeppelin before it gets deployed. So we've really come a long way in improving our security. And Andra mentioned we're one of only 6 projects to get that AAA rating from Insurace, the decentralized insurance protocol. So I think that is just one example that speaks to how far we've come and how secure the protocol is today. And that's been, it's been a couple of years now, and there's been hundreds of millions of dollars in this protocol since. So we feel very comfortable parking our company's money, and I feel very comfortable parking, a significant portion of my own net worth in this protocol myself.
Yeah, and it definitely speaks to the industry that we're in. I mean, 2 years is an eternity in DeFi, and our industry is forced to learn a little bit trial by fire, but the steps taken afterwards that you cited, some of the best practices that we've seen many protocols follow. So yeah, definitely see the value in that lesson learned a couple years ago. Moving up, I believe it's component 5, also talks about a legal structure, which I think is unique for a decentralized proposal. Could you explain some of the logic in that structure as well?
Yeah, so think of Origin Dollar really as a decentralized protocol. Sometimes when we're filling out forms, we have to come up with a normal corporate entity that we can cite. And so we have a Cayman entity that actually, for legal purposes, was the issuing entity behind our tokens. But I don't think it has too much application here for our proposal. Again, it's 100% decentralized. We're not taking custody of the funds, and the Cayman entity really doesn't have any control over the funds at all. It's all governed by the voters and stakers of OGV.
And I'll just add on top of that, with OUSD, there's no lockups. Like there's no terms, there's no contracts, there's no conditions, there's no vesting periods. You can come in and out at the speed of the Ethereum blockchain, whenever you want it, at any time of day. It's truly decentralized.
Yeah, if you're giving money to a centralized counterparty, wherever incorporated matters, who they are matters, who's on their board of directors matters. In this case, you can look at the code, right? And you can look at exactly how it operates, and you don't have to trust us or any centralized counterparty. And that's the whole point. That's the part of the conversation we really want to drive home here. And I think it's an important conversation for us to be having in the Maker community on how much are we willing to compromise on our ideals around decentralization in order to make a quick buck.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that the previous two proposals that we hosted, both Coinbase and CoinShares, way for that withdrawal, so that it could be a competitive advantage. The DAO sees it that way. So definitely want to highlight that. It looks like the question bucket is a little dry, so I'll make one last call for questions before wrapping up. While people may be typing into the chat, I do also want to highlight that we are about a week away, 8 days away from the RFC freeze period for November. Your team is planning to submit it for the November cycle, I'm assuming then?
Yes, correct.
Perfect. So community has about another week to provide comments and suggestions for improvement before the freeze period then on November 2nd. Recognized delegate Flip Flat has submitted another question which asks, what are some of the business development actions taken to overcome some of the barriers to exceed and excel beyond where you are today?
I'll take that one. Hi, I'm head of BD for those that joined a little bit late in the session. So up until I joined in May, and up until that point, OUSD had more or less organic growth. I was actually a little bit surprised to see how small the growth team was, whether that's in marketing or BD, right? So the growth that it had up until that point was, like I said, very organic, using Origin's traction from previous products that it built, such as Origin Story, et cetera, and the community around that, which obviously did a tremendous job. So they were able to build an insane community for that particular project. Now, when I joined, we started doing a little bit more intentional growth, and we started looking at trying to find product market fit. So if you look at the top stablecoins on the market cap, they each have their own fit, right? I mean, Tether is used by all the traders. It's integrated in every single exchange. It has all the liquidity pairs. It's just deeply integrated, right? USDC is the trusted one, the safe choice. Then you have, of course, DAI, which is the DeFi token. You have Binance stablecoin, which us in the Ethereum space, we're a little bit biased against that. By the way, we're only on Ethereum at the moment. I should mention that. So we figured if we want to become a top stablecoin, we would have to find this product market fit. Now, there's a bit of a challenge with OUSD because of the rebasing aspect. So obviously, it takes a little bit more of technical integration, and that's something that can hold us back, not because we're not actively pursuing all of these, but because there's, like I said, work to be done. Resources are scarce, and priorities are what they are. But we are advancing on multiple fronts to make sure that OUSD becomes, as Josh already said, available everywhere and for everyone, right? So we want to make sure that it's on all the exchanges where we can list it. So we're constantly chatting with every single exchange that supports rebasing tokens. We're chatting with a lot of DeFi protocols that are able to support OUSD to see if we can find new liquidity sources for it. Is it a new a safe protocol that we can extract yield from to give it back to our users? And we have, like I said, an incredible team that does a lot of due diligence on that front. We're chatting with treasury management solutions because we're seeing a new trend in DeFi where we need treasury management. And obviously, a lot of these DAOs and protocols are sitting on their native tokens, and we don't support native tokens. We're a stablecoin protocol. So what we are doing is trying to integrate with them to have them use OUSD as a hedge for their stablecoin strategy. So we're chatting with a lot of these types of projects. We also are chatting directly with DAOs to see what their interest is in their treasury management and putting some of that into OUSD. Now, encouraging DAOs to put all of their treasury in OUSD would be a poor risk practice on our end, right? We would say, hey, why don't you put it all? Like, no one should do that. Of course, we would love it, but you should not do that just because everyone knows you should be hedging. So we're trying to position it as is a hedge, right? Why don't you put 5, 10, 20%, exactly like we're doing with Maker, right? We gave you a pretty big range from like 1% to 32%, whatever you're comfortable with, and use that as a hedge for your other activities, whether they're centralized searches for yield or decentralized treasury management solutions. So we're doing a lot on that front as well. We are also chatting individually with the larger holders of stablecoins. So obviously in our search, we got to PSM, which brings us today and why we're here. We're also looking at the other wallets and trying to identify like, where do they hang out? How can we target them? How can we chat with them to get them to buy OUSD, whether that's through individual conversations. We're going to most conferences to try to build a bit more awareness around OUSD because that's something that we haven't done a lot of in the past. And we're in our path where we're chatting with a lot of these whales to say so. A lot of the crypto native funds, whether they're hedge or just venture, that have stablecoin strategies or yield strategies, and also family offices. That's something that we're exploring a little bit with because they're starting to get an appetite for crypto. Some of them have been in crypto for a while. A lot of them are sitting on stablecoins in this market, as they should. And we're integrating with custodians as well, because whether we like it or not, although we believe that the future should be fully decentralized, they don't know how to manage non-custodial wallets and they can't be in charge of their own assets. So we have to make sure that we have all the custodian support in order to help them onboard into crypto. So that's something that we're also working towards. Again, it's going to be a long journey for us just because of the rebasing feature, but we are actively working on all of those fronts.
And I'll just add, we very much believe in the power of incentives to drive outcomes. And so Flip Flop Flat was actually one of the people who was instrumental in having us add this additional incentive to our proposal. And so we've, if you haven't checked out the MIP since we originally posted it, we have updated it, taking all of the feedback from the delegates we've spoken to and the comments on that post and how we can make it clearer and more compelling. And again, one of the ways we're doing that is by offering a percentage of the governance token between 1 to 3% to Maker as an incentive to align interests for long term. We're also just kind of realizing you guys, we're asking you to take a bet on us, and you should be rewarded for taking on that extra risk and being willing to do that. It's basically our idea is we want to give you a big pile of money, and we want to give you the voting power you need to be able to actually look out for it yourself, right? And because it's decentralized, with those votes, you'll have enough votes to actually influence how those funds are invested and what happens to the protocol. So it gives you a very, very large vote in making sure that everything goes well. And we hope that goes a long way to mitigating the risks that you may see around working with a third party versus building this yourself. It gives you, enough voting power that you can actually, have as much say as many of the people on our core team as far as what actually happens.
Well, I think the description of the business development opportunities and the innovative approaches in MIP87 speak for themselves. It's definitely a lot for the DAO to consider, especially on the week following of Endgame being ratified. But it creates a lot of opportunities, I think, both for creators, protectors, and governor DAOs with the governance token being introduced as a potential reward. So we want to say definitely appreciate your team coming on and providing a great level of detail into the MIP. And as a reminder, again, there is another week. So as people both on YouTube and our audience today have more questions, it would be best to direct those to the MIP87 forum post, which I shared in the chat. But as always, I'd love to have around the room and any closing thoughts from the team. We're happy to give you the last word.
I'll just say thanks again for having us on. We do think this topic is really important for the Maker community. And it's not just about OUSD. OUSD is one particular implementation of it. But the bigger conversation here is the question of decentralization. Is Maker moving in a direction of more trust, more counterparties? Is that the direction the community wants to go? Or do we want to move more towards decentralization? Is the end game more around holding more ETH, becoming less dependent on these centralized counterparties? And while we understand that we may have to make some compromises in the short term, we're holding USDC as one of our backing collaterals as well. But I think it's important to us and to many people that we've spoken to in the Maker community that we're at least heading in the right direction, that we're heading towards more decentralization, more trustless computing. And that's really what this MIP is about, and really the broader conversation we hope to participate in and really help drive that conversation. We think it's really, really important. But thanks so much for having us on. Everyone in the community has been like super helpful and welcoming. So thank you all. Appreciate all the feedback and comments on the MIP. Please continue to submit those and help us make it better and more compelling. So thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, and thank you again, Origin Protocol team. We'll see everybody in the metaverse, and keep up to date with this proposal and the rest of MakerDAO governance at forum.makerdao.com. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks, Al.